September 15, 1946. 2:11 a.m. Marcus Garvey Park, Harlem. The rope creaked once. That sound was wrong. Too calm. Too final. Thomas Johnson stood on the damp earth with his hands tied behind him, watching the man he trusted pull on leather gloves. Not fast. Not nervous. Careful. Like this had been rehearsed. "Look up," the man said. 3 words. Flat. No anger. Thomas didn't move. This was the moment. The one where loyalty should have stepped in. The one where fear should have cracked someone's voice. It didn't. The man reached into his coat instead. Not for a weapon. For a folded handkerchief. He wiped his palms first. That detail will matter soon. A second man cleared his throat. Somewhere behind the trees, a car idled. No music. No laughter. Just an engine waiting. Thomas knew all of them. That was the betrayal. He had eaten with them. Argued with them. Walked these streets beside them. Harlem rules were simple: strangers brought danger. Familiar faces brought safety. Tonight, the rules were reversed. "Do it," someone said. The rope slid across bark. The sound was dry. Controlled. Thomas felt the knot press against his neck. Cold fibers. No rush. Whoever planned this wanted time. Time to be certain. He didn't know this moment would rewrite everything. How? We'll get to that. A shadow stepped closer. The trusted man again. The one who promised him a ride home. The one who told him, "Your family around here." "You should have kept quiet," the man said. That was the lie. Thomas had already figured it out. He hadn't talked. Silence wasn't the problem. What he represented was. The rope tightened. Not enough to kill. Enough to scare. Fear shifts power. That was the lesson they thought they were teaching. They were wrong. Because Thomas Johnson wasn't just a student. And he wasn't just a young man in the wrong park. He was Bumpy Johnson's nephew. Nobody said the name out loud. They didn't need to. It sat between them anyway. Heavy. Untouched. A hand pushed his shoulder. Thomas stumbled forward. The rope bit hard now. His feet scrambled, found nothing. For 1 second, the park was silent. Then jazz music cut off somewhere across Lenox Avenue. That silence was the real signal. A match flared. Brief. Someone lit a cigarette. "No hurry. He'll swing," a voice said. Confident. That confidence was the mistake. Because what they didn't see, what none of them saw, was the way Thomas kept his eyes open. Calm. Measuring. Memorizing faces. Shoes. Voices. Knowledge is power, even when you're losing air. He memorized the gloves. The cough. The man who wouldn't meet his eyes. We'll return to this. The rope jerked once more. Then it was over. By sunrise, the NYPD called it a suicide. Clean paperwork. Clean hands. Harlem didn't believe it for a second. Marcus Garvey Park smelled like damp leaves and bad lies. Men stood around longer than usual. Nobody spoke above a whisper. Nobody touched the tree. Word moved faster than patrol cars. By noon, someone reached Bumpy Johnson. He didn't react. That was the first sign something was wrong. Bumpy was in a back room on 126th Street when the message came. A trusted runner. Breathless. Nervous. "They say your nephew." "I heard," Bumpy said. 1 sentence. Calm. The room stayed quiet. Cigarette smoke hung low. Nobody moved. Power doesn't shout. It waits. "What are you going to do?" someone asked. Bumpy looked at his hands. Large. Steady. 7 days, he said. That was all. Nobody knew what it meant. Not then. But everyone felt it. Because Bumpy Johnson didn't threaten. He calculated. And somewhere in Harlem, 5 men who thought they'd erased a problem were about to learn the cost of being known. One of them would try to run. One would beg. One would make the wrong call. And one would realize, too late, that the rope wasn't the punishment. It was the message. Harlem didn't wake up angry. It woke up alert. That mattered. In 1946, Harlem ran on memory. Who paid? Who lied? Who disappeared and why? Power lived in quiet routines. Who got served first? Who waited? Who crossed the street without looking back? By Monday morning, every bartender knew Thomas Johnson's name. Every numbers runner knew where his body had been found. And every man who'd ever borrowed Bumpy Johnson's protection understood one thing clearly. This wasn't noise. This was accounting. Bumpy Johnson didn't go to the park. He didn't visit the family. He didn't raise his voice. That absence was deliberate. When Bumpy moved too early, people hid. When he stayed still, people talked. And Harlem talked. Thomas had been careful. A Columbia student. Clean clothes. Polite manners. Not involved in business. That was exactly why he was dangerous. He was proof Bumpy had a future beyond the streets. Someone wanted to erase that. That decision wasn't made in anger. It was made in a room. Over drinks. With confidence. The men responsible weren't outsiders. They weren't amateurs. They were part of a small Ku Klux Klan cell that believed Harlem was distracted, that power had shifted after the war, that the old rules were softening. That belief was their first mistake. Their second was assuming Bumpy would respond the way others did. Most men answered death with speed. Guns. Public blood. Loud warnings. Bumpy answered with patience. By Tuesday, he knew who tied the rope. Not from police files. From habits. One man stopped drinking in public. One started missing meetings. One asked too many questions about boats heading south. Knowledge loop. This will matter soon. Bumpy met with his lieutenants in a private room behind a tailor shop. No windows. One light. The smell of pressed fabric clung to the air. 5 men, one lieutenant said. Bumpy nodded. They think it's finished, another added. Bumpy smiled. Just once. They think I need to be seen. That was the misunderstanding. Bumpy's reputation didn't come from what he did in public. It came from what happened after people relaxed. On Wednesday, he sent no messages. Instead, he let someone else talk. A man named Dutch Henry. Loud. Flashy. Known to exaggerate. Known to survive. Dutch visited 3 bars in one night. Told the same story each time. Bumpy's furious, Dutch said. He's going to make an example. That story traveled exactly where it needed to go. The Klan men heard it by Thursday morning. Fear makes people rush. Rush makes mistakes. One of them went to the police. Not to confess. To test protection. The desk sergeant listened. Wrote nothing. Asked no names. Power shifted quietly. By Thursday afternoon, Bumpy made his first move. He called in a favor. Not muscle. Not weapons. Information. A landlord on East 98th Street suddenly raised rent. A dock worker delayed a shipment. A bookmaker refused a bet. Small things. Connected things. One man noticed his money wasn't moving. Another noticed his name wasn't being answered. Moral loop forming, hide or face it. That night, Bumpy finally spoke to Thomas's mother. I'll bring him back, he said. She didn't ask how. By Friday, one of the 5 men panicked. He left Harlem before dawn. That was the third mistake. Because running didn't remove you from Bumpy Johnson's reach. It narrowed it. Someone spotted the man at a bus station in New Jersey. Someone else recognized his shoes. The same shoes Thomas had memoized. We're coming back to those. By Saturday morning, Harlem felt different. Quieter. Doors closed faster. Conversations ended mid-sentence. People weren't afraid of violence. They were afraid of precision. Because when Bumpy Johnson decided something would happen in 7 days, it always did. The question wasn't who would fall. It was how many would realize too late that they'd already lost. By Saturday night, Bumpy Johnson had written the list. Not on paper. In his head. 5 names. 5 routines. 5 weaknesses. He didn't need more. Men who act in groups always fracture alone. That was the principle. He started with the one who ran. The man reached Newark thinking distance was safety. He rented a room above a bar that didn't ask questions. Paid cash. Closed the curtains. He ordered eggs in the morning and whiskey at night. Routine is confession. Bumpy didn't go near him. He didn't send anyone recognizable. He sent silence. The bar stopped serving him credit. The bartender stopped meeting his eyes. The landlord knocked twice every night for rent that wasn't due. Fear isn't loud. It's repetitive. By Sunday, the man called Harlem. I want to talk, he said. No, came the answer. 12 letters. Nothing more. That refusal mattered. It told the others something important. There would be no negotiation. This detail will matter soon. Back in Harlem, the remaining 4 met in a warehouse on East 98th Street. Same place they'd planned the rope. Same confidence. Different energy. One of them paced. One smoked too fast. One stared at the door. The leader stayed still. We did nothing wrong, he said. That was the fatal mistake. They thought this was about rules. Territory. Politics. It wasn't. It was about certainty. Bumpy Johnson understood something most men didn't. If people think you're deciding whether to act, they wait. If they know you've already decided how, they unravel themselves. On Monday morning, one of the four lost his job. No warning. No explanation. Just a closed door. By noon, his bank account was frozen. Not seized. Just inaccessible. A clerk shrugged. Temporary. Temporary is terrifying. Power loop, who controls movement? That night, Bumpy visited a church. He didn't pray. He sat with an old friend who collected names the way others collected coins. Who's asking questions? Bumpy asked. The friend didn't answer immediately. He waited. Measured the silence. That warehouse, he said. They still meet. Bumpy nodded. They think the group protects them. It never does. Tuesday was quieter. Too quiet. That's when Bumpy knew someone would try something reckless. Fear always demands action. And it came from the man who'd worn the gloves. The trusted one. He showed up at a bar on 145th Street and started talking. Loud enough to be heard. He blamed others. He mocked Thomas. He said the rope was necessary. He wanted witnesses. Witnesses create leverage. Or so he thought. What he didn't know was that Bumpy had already accounted for him. Knowledge loop closing. By Wednesday, rumors started moving ahead of Bumpy's shadow. Not threats. Outcomes. He's already dead, someone whispered. Which one? Another asked. Doesn't matter. Fear spreads faster when it's vague. That night, the man in Newark couldn't take it anymore. He left his room. Drank too much. Talked to the wrong person. By morning, he was found hanging in his garage. No note. The newspapers called it coincidence. Harlem didn't. One down. The others felt it instantly. The warehouse emptied. Phones went unanswered. One man stopped sleeping at home. Another stopped sleeping at all. Bumpy didn't celebrate. He adjusted. Because the most dangerous part of power isn't taking it. It's holding it long enough for people to destroy themselves trying to escape it. By Thursday evening, only one of the original 5 still believed he was untouchable. And that belief was about to cost him everything. We'll return to him next. Thursday night didn't bring violence. It brought certainty. The last confident man sat alone in his office above a liquor wholesaler on 8th Avenue. Same chair. Same view. Same belief, reputation was armor. He poured a drink. The smell of whiskey filled the room. He didn't sip it. Confidence delays instinct. He'd convinced himself the others were careless. Emotional. Sloppy. He wasn't. He'd planned clean. Gloves. No witnesses. No loose ends. That belief had kept him upright while everyone else bent. It was also wrong. The phone rang once. He let it ring again before answering. Yeah? A voice he recognized immediately. Calm. Familiar. You should come in, Bumpy Johnson said. No threat. No explanation. Silence followed. Power shifted in that silence. I didn't do anything, the man said. Bumpy didn't answer right away. We'll talk, Bumpy said. Tonight. The call ended. No address was given. The man laughed. Just once. Relief disguised as control. He poured the drink out. Straightened his jacket. He walked downstairs and stepped into the street. A car idled at the curb. Driver unknown. Windows fogged. The door opened. Get in. He hesitated. That hesitation was the last moment he owned. Inside the car, no one spoke. The engine hummed low. They drove south. Then east. Then stopped. The building wasn't hidden. That was intentional. A public place where nothing public would happen. A private room. One light. One chair. Bumpy Johnson sat already waiting. He didn't stand. Sit, Bumpy said. The man SAT.NO weapons were drawn. None were needed. Bumpy leaned forward slightly. The smell of cigar smoke drifted once, then faded. Tell me what you thought would happen, Bumpy said. The man spoke quickly. Justifications. Fear disguised as logic. Names offered like currency. Bumpy listened. That was the trap. When the man finished, Bumpy nodded. You planned it well, Bumpy said. Relief crossed the man's face. Then Bumpy continued. You planned the rope. You planned the silence. You didn't plan the days after. The man shifted. Bumpy stood. Everyone thinks punishment is pain, Bumpy said. It's not. He walked to the door. Opened it. Outside, two men waited. Not enforcers. Accountants. By Friday morning, the man's world collapsed without a sound. His job vanished. His leases were terminated. His credit evaporated. Friends stopped answering. His name was removed from rooms he once controlled. No blood. No body. Just absence. That was the real execution. By evening, Harlem understood. Fear spread, but so did clarity. One man went insane in the woods. Another burned what he owned and disappeared. The gloves were found in a trash barrel. Unused again. By Sunday, the warehouse on East 98th Street was empty. By Monday, the Klan cell in Harlem no longer existed. Bumpy Johnson didn't announce it. He didn't need to. Because power isn't what you do to people. It's what people do to themselves once they know you're watching. By the sixth day, Harlem stopped whispering. Not because the story was over, but because it was finished. The underworld reacts to violence with noise. It reacts to certainty with obedience. No bodies lined the streets. No shootouts made headlines. Yet something heavier settled in. Men changed routes. Meetings shortened. Faces lowered. Power had moved, and everyone felt where it landed. The police noticed it too. Calls dropped. Informants went quiet. Petty disputes vanished overnight. Harlem behaved like a place being watched by someone who didn't blink. That kind of order scares authorities more than chaos. One detective tried asking questions. He got polite answers and nothing else. No witnesses. No rumors. No bravado. Just people suddenly interested in minding their business. The consequences weren't physical. They were psychological. The man who lost everything, the one spared public death, sat in a rented room in Queens staring at walls he didn't own. No money. No reputation. No allies. He wasn't hunted. He was ignored. That was worse. Power loop closing. Who decides who exists? The others carried their punishment differently. One drank himself into silence. Another left New York entirely. Changed his name. Changed his face. He never changed his fear. Every one of them understood the same thing. Bumpy Johnson didn't chase revenge. He erased certainty. By the seventh day, Bumpy returned to his routine. Same streets. Same suit. Same pace. He didn't visit Marcus Garvey Park. He didn't speak Thomas's name in public. That restraint was deliberate. Because legends aren't built on anger. They're built on restraint people don't understand. Someone finally asked him, quietly, if it was finished. Bumpy paused before answering. Yes, he said. One word. That was all Harlem needed. The city exhaled. Because now everyone knew the rules again. You could challenge Bumpy Johnson. You could even hurt him. But if you touched his family, if you confused patience for weakness, you wouldn't be punished. You'd be studied. And study always ends the same way. On the seventh night, jazz returned to normal hours. Dice rolled again. Doors reopened. Life resumed. But the fear stayed. Because no one ever learned exactly how Bumpy knew everything he knew. And that mystery was the real warning. Years later, men would argue about what really happened that week. Some said Bumpy ordered deaths. Others said he only watched while fear did the work. Both sides missed the point. The truth was quieter. Thomas Johnson was buried without spectacle. No speeches. No promises made aloud. Just a family standing close together, and a man in a dark suit keeping his hands folded. Bumpy never cried. He didn't need to. Because grief wasn't the lesson he wanted remembered. Control was. The men who survived those 7 days carried the punishment longer than any prison sentence. They learned that power isn't speed. It isn't volume. And it isn't cruelty. It's foresight. Harlem remembered that week the way it remembers all real turning points, indirectly. In habits. In silence. In decisions never made again. From that point on, nobody tested Bumpy Johnson's boundaries the same way. They didn't need to be told. They'd seen what happened when someone believed rules were optional. And here's the detail most people overlook. Bumpy never hunted the rope men because they were Klansmen. He hunted them because they thought familiarity made them safe. That mistake is universal. That's why the story lasted. That's why it traveled. Because power doesn't care about ideology. It only responds to disrespect. The real winner wasn't the man who survived. It was the reputation that became untouchable. Bumpy Johnson returned to business. Numbers. Deals. Politics. Influence. The same controlled dominance as before, only now, sharpened. And Harlem understood the moral without being taught. If someone with real power stays calm, you should be afraid. Because calm means the decision was already made. Years later, someone would ask what Bumpy said about that week. He answered once. They chose how it ended. That line lived longer than any body. So if you're listening to this story and thinking violence is the answer, remember this. The most devastating victories leave no blood. Only fear, silence, and obedience. And if you think this was dangerous, wait until you hear what happened when Bumpy Johnson walked into a room unarmed, and everyone stood up anyway. Like the video if you felt the tension. Comment, is silence more powerful than violence? Subscribe for the next story, because the next one starts with a man who thought reputation could be borrowed.